Okay, I'm going to start with an apology for the technical difficulties we've had this evening and an explanation from the fine folk in the bio box up there. Apparently there's some software that drives a system called XSplit, and when they went to fire up the system at a good early time this afternoon, XSplit said, "Hey, I want your license number." It turns out there had been an upgrade in Windows, which probably somehow or other clobbered some cookies or something or other, and that particular computer had forgotten its license, and so there's much scurrying and carrying on to try and restore the license and access to that XSplit software. So that's the short form of the whole thing. This is I'm a jazz fan, and one of my favourite songs is "What a Day It Has Been." In fact, I directed the show Brigadoon at one stage for Mornington Theatre Group. That's another story. Well, this is more what an 8 or 10 weeks it has been, both for the club and for myself personally. As you know, I've been away on holidays, and we had a lovely trip around Norway and down the fjords and midnight sun and all that sort of caper. And then towards the end of the trip, my wife and I both caught COVID. And very long story short, we had an enforced extra 7 days in Oslo, which used to be my old hometown when I was a kid, and stuck in a hotel. Not so much because of the COVID, because my wife was not fit to move around very much, other than get on a tram and go and see a doctor a couple of times. And a laundromat, by the way. Cool, laundromat with a built-in cafe, so you've got something, your clothes are washing while you're having lunch, which is an upside, I suppose. Been a lot of other disruptions in the club in the last little while. Hugh resigned as president, and you've heard some of this before, I know, from Mick, who very ably sort of took my place last month. Hugh, for purely personal family reasons, quit as president, and shortly after, a couple of the other committee members, the vice president Stephen and another committee member, resigned, and I sort of got pointed out, I think, not sure if I volunteered or got volunteered to step back into the the Oval Office that we don't have. And that's one of the things. I shouldn't have touched the screen. But one of the upsides of all this was that, hang on, my notes are a bit out of sequence. The other thing that's been disruptive is that Marlin is on holidays in Sweden until another 10 days. She'll be back. Yeah, and counting. We were all counting getting Marlin back. We've been operating with a number of people who stepped in as office volunteers, which we're all very grateful for. But we do need. If you're listening, Marlin, vi må ha deg tilbake. Kom hjem, kom hjem. Yeah, I speak Norwegian and Swedish. So Marlin away is. Oh, why don't this silly thing scroll? See, I'm not used to using these things. That's better. The newsletter has also, at the moment, gone into recess. The two reasons for that. One is Marlin being away, who's actually been doing a lot of the burden of the newsletter in recent issues, and the fact that Hugh is absolutely understandably not able to do any of that at the moment. And A, I've not been here to pick that one up, and B, I don't think I could handle any extra load right now. So it's all been a little bit of a downer, but we are going to come out of it, and we're going to come out of it stronger, I'm sure. But just so you understand that. I did a lot of thinking while I was away. Before I went away, we had started, and Hugh had initiated a process to plot and plan and set an end goal for where the club's going to be in 2035 or something like that. That was to be a very structured, formalised process Since then, and I've spoken to all the committee members about this, and we're in agreement, we're going to adopt a rather different strategy, and that's something that I've dubbed as an agile evolution. Basically, we are going to have lots of initiatives, trying lots of different things, and pick those things that do work and build on them. So basically, the club will start to evolve, obviously in a tech direction, but probably much wider scope than it's had to date. One thing that's absolutely non-negotiable in that is that all the services currently being provided to existing members will continue and not be affected. And I think it's very important to realise that. That's an absolute solid commitment, that the SIGs will continue to be supported, etc., etc., etc. So we're taking nothing away, but we are going to be adding things. Exactly what it is at the moment, I can't really tell you, but the general concept is going to be, if you've got a passion for something in the tech space, come to us and we will try to provide you with the resources and ability to share that passion to other people. And that's going to be not only to members within the club, that's going to be to people within the broader community, some of which we hope will then join up and become members of the club. Part of that there will be, and again, all the details yet to be worked out, will be different revenue models. So it might be, you can come along to, and I'm planning to run getting started with Arduino thing, because that's sort of my field of passion and expertise. Mick is going to do one on 3D printing. We've actually already got something going with 3D design that's just sort of happening organically. If you're a member of the club, maybe you pay $5 plus materials. If you're not a member of the club, maybe you pay $25 for the session, something like that. And after a few sessions, people go, oh, I might as well join the club. So all that, this is just the very broad principles and ideas at the moment, but as we go through, then hopefully we will find those things that have been popular, have worked, maybe repeated every 3 months. And if someone else in the community says, oh, look, I'm really, really interested in artificial intelligence and designing neural network solutions. Hey, cool, come in and do the thing within the context of the club, and we'll provide you the resources to do that. And maybe even, we'll hope you join the club, but people who contribute to those sorts of things, we give them a bit of a discount on next year's subscription, which won't be $80 anymore, to be determined. But again, the existing structures will remain, the SIGs and all that sort of stuff. In fact, we're going to try and enhance the SIGs and make the accessibility to the SIGs better than it is at the moment. But again, more of that later when we have Marlin home. One of the big things we need to be looking at is the marketing side of the website. And I'm talking about the modern website. This one, not what I regard as the member services website, which is the old Melb PC one. This one, and just recently I've been realizing any redesign has got to be aimed primarily at these things, not at these things, because that's what our target audience uses these days. It's the younger people we need to be getting into the club. There's some other things that are happening, and I'll try and be quick. We're beginning to develop, and this is largely thanks to Kirsten, a relationship with the Kingston Council. There's little doubt in my mind that in the longer term, the club is going to become much more of a centralised, here in Moorabbin is where it's at, rather than the current sort of distributed all around the suburbs model. Those SIGs will continue for as long as they can continue, but we've already seen several of them fading away as the people that drive them have lost interest or gone to other places. So we've already had 1 or 2 events that we have hosted here on behalf of Kingston Council and what was the other organisation, Kirsten? STEM Incubators, yeah, the hackathon, which was apparently very successful. I missed it. We had 30 or 40 kids in here sharing coding and what have you. There's a project going on downstairs in the basement. Some will be aware of, others not. Developing a CNC routing machine, and that's turned into a really good bringing people together project, which is really good. It brings people together, collaborating on these projects. Back corner of the room, for those of you in your room, you'll see some weird-looking stuff that's being set up there, which I sort of dubbed as a YouTube studio, with the intention of being able to make YouTube clips. And members being able to make YouTube clips about their passions, whether it be underwater macrame or spaghetti cooking, doesn't matter, and have the facilities and support with editing and what have you. That's now involved, and other people have taken over a lot of that. Karen, thank you. Karen Addis is doing some of that stuff, and it's going to converge on I think, quite a useful and versatile video recording and production system. Be Connected is being run in twice a month on Wednesdays, and we've already had a couple of wins with 3D printing where we've solved little problems and fixed bits of equipment or gadgetry for members. So there's a lot of positive happening there. There's a slow change is happening. And we're going to keep that momentum and build up on it, and I'm giving him the nod. So thank you, Barry. Over and out.
Thank you, David, and we all very much appreciate you taking over the reins unexpectedly a month or so ago. And so thank you very much. It's close enough to 9 o'clock, but if people are happy, we'll go to 9:15. Yes? And David Hatton is going to present, he's online, he's going to present to us what the Linux SIG is all about. And David, over to you.
Just a little bit about Melbourne PC Linux SIG. First, a little bit of history. We started in September 2005 with the full title, the Northern Suburbs Linux SIG. So next year will be our 20th anniversary. Bit of water under the bridge there, but we have been going for a while. It was started by Stephen Davidson and myself, and at the time it was fairly difficult to get across Melbourne to the then Melbourne PC club rooms. I think it was at Chadstone, and there were a few people locally at the north and northeast area interested in Linux and finding it difficult to get to the club rooms for the Linux meetings there. So we decided to see if we could form a group locally so we wouldn't have to go across Melbourne in peak hour traffic. So when we started out, one of the major activities was to provide convenient access to ISO downloads. Now, ISO downloads in those days basically used to burn CDs. Remember them? And a bit later on, DVDs, as the quantity of data grew. And one of the features of the SIG was keeping a hard drive, which was kept up to date by Steve Davidson. Thanks, Steve. And was used fairly intensively at meetings to get Linux distributions, of which there were quite a number, and as there are now. And the other thing we did, of course, was to swap ideas and tips for using the SIG ISOs to provide ourselves with daily driver type access on our systems. Fast forward to the present, we don't keep an ISO library anymore because the internet access these days is pretty much universal. And if you do have trouble accessing Linux software over the internet, you can usually go down to your local library and they can help you out there. So not much use for a local ISO hard disk library anymore. So what do we do now at our meetings, our online meetings? And we've gone online because of the general interest of people, members all over Melbourne, so they don't have to travel up to the northeast to attend meetings. So we concentrate on Linux as used on laptops and desktops. And that's an area which isn't really covered all that much in the general technical press, and is a bit better online on YouTube, but there are, I think, some particular quirks which come from the local situation. So we try and give people a helping hand with any problems they might have, and seeing how that goes. We're not entirely exclusively Linux. We look at the more unusual open source software as well. FreeBSD and derivatives, Raspberry Pi, which of course runs Linux, and other projects like Haiku and Minuet. If you haven't heard of those two, it's probably worthwhile seeking them out online because they're unusual and interesting projects. And the really important part of our meeting is Q&A. And as regular attendees will attest, sometimes we get some rather interesting and occasionally rather offbeat discussions, which is all the more enjoyable. So what are the practical concerns of using Linux from the point of view of someone who maybe is contemplating whether they should get a new, expensive Windows 11 compatible system to replace their not so old and still nicely working system that's running Windows 10? And I suppose one of the most common misconceptions still is that using Linux requires to be a guru at the command line, someone like the old MS-DOS terminal. Now, that's not the case today. Possibly 20 years ago, but not today, because the desktop experience with Linux has improved considerably over the last 10, 15 years, and very considerably over the beginnings. And it's much more amenable and much more accessible to the everyday computer user. And the generally accepted best starting point for the first-time Linux users is a Linux Mint distribution. So let's have a very quick look at the look and feel of a modern Linux desktop. Just put that up there and right. Oops. Bear with me for a moment. Where is it? So I'm running this in a virtual machine in VirtualBox. Right away. And it's starting, it boots up, and here we go. You can get some interesting messages, which is about, and you get a login screen. So log in the normal way. A little bit of a pause. This is a fairly old machine I'm running on. It's actually 13 years old, but it's still working quite well. And there we go. So this is what you see when you log in for the first time. Now, you don't have to go through and first start experience where you have to do all sorts of things like nominate a online account and stuff like that. All you have to do is bring up the menu, and on the left-hand side, you've got a number of pre-set up favorites, as they're called. But you'll note there's quite a lot of software here. And this all comes standard with the Linux Mint install. And it's typical of the Linux installs of various distributions. Sound and video, there's administration, there's a software manager.
Yeah.
And you can see here Kelvin's favorite OBS Studio, VirtualBox, Inkscape, and maybe we should look at the Office selection. LibreOffice features fairly strongly, and all sorts of other interesting bits of software just to install away. Now, you can...
David, we've only got 5 minutes.
Yes.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
I haven't used Linux at all, but like a lot of people, I have the perception that what Linux is a free version of Windows. And why aren't I using it? Because I sort of suspect that Windows will do things that you can't do in Linux. But maybe that's not correct.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably not strictly correct. I think that a lot of the Linux, or a number of the Linux distributions, and by distributions are simply varying projects which have as their output a installation software to install it. like we've done here. But there, you'll notice that that is fairly similar to Windows.
And it looks very comprehensive.
Yes. And that's done deliberately to help people make the change from Windows to Linux.
So why am I hesitating? Why aren't I now using Linux and not Windows?
Probably because, like anything different, it takes a little bit to getting used to.
Okay.
Not so much as completely different, but different enough to throw out your natural reflexes.
Gotcha. Is there anything that's inherently better in Linux than in Windows?
Well, I would answer that by saying you are in control.
Okay.
If you, for example, nominate a particular web browser as your default browser,
Yeah.
you will always get that from that point on, and it won't change unless you change it.
Right.
It's really a matter of familiarization.
Okay. So there's more to it than just saving money on Windows.
Oh, yes, there's a lot more. I've been using Windows as a daily driver for 20 years now. And particularly in the last 5 years or so, it's become a lot easier.
Okay.
It's very similar to any well-designed desktop for daily use.
Yeah.
And
David, just to finish it off, when the Linux group meets only online?
yes.
And which is good because, as you said, you're drawing people from all over the country.
Yes, well, technically, yeah.
And when do you?
We meet on the third Monday of each month at approximately 7:45 p.m.
Third Mondays at 7:45 p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
For
And
2 hours or?
it's fairly flexible finishing point.
Okay.
Nominally a couple of hours, but sometimes discussions go on longer. People
Is there some
can,
information about the group on the Melb PC website?
yes, we have a homepage there.
Oh, okay.
Under the SIGs, and you can get the details of meetings and a few other things as well from that site. So the thing we're starting very shortly is a beginner's workshop.
Oh, great.
The details are still to be finalised, but I'd encourage people who might be interested in it. It'd be an online session of about 1.5 hours. I'd encourage them to send us an email at the SIG address. What I'll do is put in the chat a PDF version of this presentation, and at the end of that PDF are a number of useful links to various places that are of interest to people in contemplating Linux. So I'll do that shortly after I stop sharing.
Thank you, David.
Okay.
I asked for permission before from people that we can continue until 9:15, which we now have.
Yes.
So we're going to have to leave it there.
That's fine.
Well, it's probably not, but we're still going to have to leave it there. Just a moment, Kirsten wants to.
Switch it over just like normal. Continue.
Yes, we will officially end the meeting at this stage, but you can keep talking for those who are interested, and and answer questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll
So if
hang
we
around.
formally end the meeting, I think we formally end the recording.
Yes.
And but so long as people are interested, there's no reason why you just can't keep chatting.
Fair enough.
But David, with apologies for keeping you to your 15 minutes, thank you very much for that. And
That's all right.
I have to seriously think why I'm not using Linux myself. Thank you so much.
Yeah. People are welcome to come along at any stage to the Linux meetings.
When was that, David? Third Monday.
Third Monday of the month. And we tend to start a bit late to give people who are working still a time to get home and do the family duties.